Hi everyone and welcome to episode 17 of the Talk is Cheap show, and we've got a very special show lined up for you today. But before we go any further, introductions. My man Curtis. How you doing, bro? What are you saying?
Good.
Everything good? Tell the people what you've been up to since last week.
Yeah, just working on the channel, Curtis Shaw TV. Big up everyone supporting, check that out.
Okay, that's good, that's good. And also, it's my pleasure to introduce our esteemed guest in the house.
Esteemed,
hey.
Esteemed, bro.
What's that, brother?
Esteemed journalist.
I'm good.
Yeah, man, all good.
Good to see you.
Esteemed journalist and broadcaster. Yeah?
Some wouldn't use the word esteemed. I'm glad you would.
I would, man, definitely. Listen, tell the people a little bit about yourself.
About me, so first of all, most important thing, big Arsenal fan. I'm a journalist, broadcaster. I work for Channel 4 News as their sports reporter. Also do some shows on TalkSport. And also have my own platform as well. It's called Academic, which kind of touches on various issues beyond sport into kind of culture and politics, but sport as well, relating to the black community.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wanted to say to all of you guys on AFTV, I was out in Africa, Nigeria and Kenya over Christmas and New Year, and the amount of people I bumped into who said they watch AFTV. Wow. And two people that actually recognised me from being on, I think it was Turkish's show. So all of you guys are doing great work, and
excellent.
they love your work out there in Africa. So keep it up.
That's great to know, especially at a time when, you know, let's face it, there's some haters out there. It's great to know this.
Yeah, man, they love you.
But then when you're doing bits, man, you're always going to get people. That's like the reaction, counteraction thing. You're always going to get that. But yeah, it's a real pleasure to have you on, man. I'm really looking forward to hear what you got to say for later on. So thank you very much. Right, so for those of you who regularly follow the show, you know that one of our regular features is to look back at Arsenal's last game. So we're going to do that very briefly because, let's be honest, our last game wasn't something that you really want to talk about forever and ever. But let's start with Curtis, man. Our last game away to Burnley last weekend.
Yeah.
90 minutes of our lives that we're not going to get back, but just break it down quickly.
It was 2 points drop, wasn't it? We should have won that game. Aubameyang was a bit rusty, you know, missed two great chances that I think if he was sharp and had been playing, he would have put at least one of them away. Lacazette's drought continues. You know, I don't know when that's going to end. Ozil,
you've got a term to describe the lack of goals from.
Yeah, lack of threat. Oh dear. You know what? I like Lacazette, but you know, there's only so much I can defend. You know, like Ozil. You know, Ozil's gone from Mr. Assist to Mr. Pre-Assist. I'm still not too sure what that means, but I'm trying to work it out.
On this show, you're not allowed to have. You're not allowed to have a go.
Yeah, no, because otherwise you got an agenda.
You've got an agenda.
You know. Yeah,
and if you don't see what he's doing, you don't know anything about football. That's what we've been told.
That's it. So, but yeah, it was a ball draw, man. Typical of Arsenal. Last
on match of the day thing, isn't it?
Yeah, more draws than IKEA.
You are on fire today.
Well, we got to laugh, ain't you? Because I was watching that last week. I went to see my dad. Shout out to my dad, by the way. It was his 93rd birthday the other day, man. He's not been that well, and so we was up Manchester with one of my other brothers, Steve. Shout out to Steve as well. Watching the game, and boy. I had to say to my dad halfway through, man, it's okay. You'll be all right, man. Seriously, man, that was 90 minutes of our lives, man. Boy. And let's be honest, we were lucky to get a draw as well, I thought. Jordan, what do you say, man?
Yeah, I agree. I think draw's probably the fair result in the end. I think Burnley over the 9 minutes probably just shaded it. They hit the post, and after the first 10-15 minutes and the first half and 10 minutes of the second half, other than those two 10-minute spells, I thought Burnley had us pinned back on the ropes pretty much. So I think that if we'd have lost it, I think we couldn't have had too many complaints.
Yeah, that's right. I think the draw was fair.
I think it was fair. But yeah, it was a ball draw. So,
although to be fair to Arsenal and Arteta, we always knew that was going to be a difficult game. Even though our record against Burnley is pretty good over the years, but we'd earmarked that game as one that was going to be difficult. In fact, we actually predicted a draw, didn't we? No, I did. I think you predicted a win.
I think I said 2-1.
Yeah, I think I predicted 1-1 or something like that.
But that in itself was quite interesting in that you predicted a win, you went for a draw, because we can maybe get onto it later with Arteta. But that game was interesting for me in as far as Arsenal fans and as Arsenal's a football club, are we at a stage now where we have to accept that maybe a draw away at Burnley isn't a bad result? Or is that maybe what Curtis would say is us dropping our standards? And as bad as we are, we should be beating Burnley home or away. I don't know. Do you know what I mean?
No, that's a good point you raised, because we kind of touched on that last week. That's exactly what we were saying. I thought the former, which is that where we are now, for us to get a draw at Burnley is not, a mega achievement, but it's kind of what, where we are.
As long as you beat them at home. So for teams like Burnley, I think, as an Arsenal, as a fan base, 10 years ago, if you draw away at Burnley, it's a bad result. Yeah. But I think now, if you beat them at home and get a point away,
it's not too bad.
Especially with the team in transition.
Yeah.
Let's face it, man, we're not, and we're going to touch on this later, so we're going to keep our powder dry for now. But to where we are right now and what's happened over the previous months, I think a draw at Burnley is not a bad thing, to be honest. I know certainly you thought that we should go there and win.
Yeah, I thought on the day Burnley were quite poor.
They weren't great.
They did pin us back, but they didn't play great.
No.
We got in behind their defence a few times. I think if we go 1-0 up, you can turn them over, but we just didn't get the goal.
Quality-wise, it was a poor game.
Yeah,
Wasn't it?
two poor teams, if you're honest.
It was.
Two poor teams, right?
Yeah.
Are you talking in terms of performance or in general?
Just the whole season, really. Let's be honest, man. We've got to be real.
Kurt's not mincing his words today, man.
No.
Well, certainly a month ago, there were people that were kind of mentioning Burnley as possible relegation candidates. I mean, they were never in the bottom three, but about a month ago, they were in that kind of clutch of teams where you could see them getting dragged into it.
They were talking about us as possible
relegation
candidates.
2 poor teams, that's what it says.
You know what I mean?
No, but you know what? Previously, they'd been on a run of form, but then very recently, they've beaten Man United, and they beat Leicester away from home.
That's true.
Yeah.
So, But there you have it. 0-0 draw. Wasn't the best of games, but hey, we move on, eh? Right, guys, back again. So when we were putting together a show for this week, we thought we'd stick with the half-term theme. As you know, half-term's coming up. All the kids will be off and everything. So I thought it might be a good idea to do what I call a half-term report card on Mikel Arteta and Arsenal at this stage. So what we're going to do is chop it up, discuss how Arteta's doing, how the team's doing. And I drew up some what I call assessment criteria of Arteta so far. So we're going to talk about a few things and ask the guys what their opinions are. But before we go into that, let's pull up some receipts on Arteta so far since he took over. Was it December he took over? Right, so as it stands now, we're currently 11th in the Premier League. Played 7, 1 win. That was against Man United. That was a good win. 5 draws and just the 1 defeat. But we are 11th in the table, only 1 win in 7. So that's where we are right now. Although to be fair to him, the run of game's not been easy. So for example, we faced Chelsea twice, Man United twice, Sheffield United twice. So it's, all gimme games. So moving on to the assessment criteria. Let's start with communication. And when I say communication, that's how he's come across in terms of his image, the way he's dealt with the press. We could also include under that his connection with the fans. So start with Jordan. Communication, how do you think Arteta's done?
He's done well. I think we were all impressed with his initial press conference when he got the job. He said a lot of the things that needed to be said. He spoke about changing the energy of the club, because I think that there has been a breakdown in energy between the fan base and the club. The fan base seemed very disillusioned about where we're going, and that was happening under Wenger in the latter years. So in the last 3 years, it's become even more a bit random about what we're trying to do. He seemed very clear about trying to bridge that gap again between the club and the fan base. And we're seeing with Liverpool that if you're going to be successful, you need the 3 elements to be in tandem. So you need the manager, the club / players, and the fan base to all be on the same page to really push forward, because they all help each other. He spoke a lot about standards, and that was something I was really, really glad to hear him talk about. How he'll give everyone a fresh chance. It's a clean slate. If you were doing poorly before, that doesn't matter. I'll give you a chance now. If you were doing well before, doesn't matter. Starting from 0. that impressed me as well. And the thing I like about Arteta as well is that he's got quite a mean face, and he looks like he's not here on no joking. He's here to work and really, and I think he understands the size of the task ahead. And he's not here to make friends or to laugh and joke and give out frivolous lines. He gets that this is a big job that's needed, and also it's his first job. Let's not forget, it's his first job. So even putting to one side the fact that he wants Arsenal to do well for Arsenal, he wants to do well for himself. It's his first gig, and you don't want your first gig to be a bad one.
Sure.
So I get the impression when I see him and things that he says that he's here and he's not on some lele. He's here to do a job. Now, whether he does that or not, we'll see in the next 2 or 3 years. But so far, in terms of communication, I'm getting that from him, that he understands the problems and he's here to address them.
And you know what? I've got to big you up on that, because you were one of the few guys. I mean, he took over in December, and prior to that, we were going through some fairly fractious times after Emery, and then Freddie took over. That wasn't that. And you were quite consistent from day one. I remember we had discussions. You were one of the few men. This man,
I'm going to go back.
One of the
Laurie,
few men that wanted Arteta from the get-go.
I wanted Arteta from when Wenger left.
Wow.
Them times when he was linked, it was him and I think Vieira were initially linked when Wenger left. And the fan base were going crazy. And I understand why. I get it. It wasn't a ridiculous reaction to have. But I was like, you know what? My rationale for wanting Arteta was that at that point, as we are now, we're on the floor.
Yeah.
It's bad. So when things are bad, take a gamble.
That's right.
Take a risk.
Yeah.
I couldn't see it getting any worse. So for me, whether you finish 8th, 11th, it's all the same to me. Take a gamble, and you might just have the next. I think if the board do their job, we've potentially got one of the best young managers in European football.
Yeah, I've got to shout you out for that, man.
So I was on it from game.
I
might be wrong, but I'm consistent.
You didn't jump on the bandwagon. That's for
you know
sure.
why I want to mention that, and it's great that we got you on the show, because enough men are gassing themselves up, innit, when Arteta came in and said, yeah, man, it's great to have Arsenal man back. And I was like, yo, bro, where was all that energy before? None of you, man, well, very few. Jordan is one that I know for sure, was saying, get Arteta in. Enough man were going around the houses, as I admit I was as well, Curtis too. We were going around the houses with different names and looking at different people.
I get why. Yeah. I do understand why. You wanted Jose in, didn't you?
I did want Jose. And the comments, you've just blown up the comments again, man.
He's been getting this.
Every week, man, are calling me a Jose lover and that, and now you're reminding him again. But you know what?
I would point out, right, and I know I'm going to get stick for this, but not for you, man, that's going in on me and Curtis about Jose, right? But I would just remind you of this, okay? That when Jose took over at Tottenham, they were 14th, right? And we were 5th. And now, since that time, Tottenham are 5th and we are 10th. So, but anyway, Curtis.
So you just drop a bomb and then leave it, yeah? Over to you. You handle it.
What I'm going to ask you to talk about Mikel Arteta's communication skills, or lack thereof, but
No, I think he impressed everyone. I mean, that speech, the first press conference, when that finished, I felt like I wanted to run around. It pumped me up. I felt like he really understood what the club meant, what the fans need, and he seemed very sure of what his plan was. You got to remember, he's worked with Pep Guardiola for the past few years. Pep's arguably the best manager in the world. And he knows.
Better than Klopp.
Well, that's why I said arguably. I'm leaving it out there. But over the past few years, he's been the best. So he knows you've got to be a strong character. Otherwise, these players will walk all over you. So he made it clear from day one what he wanted. He seems very sure of himself. And I think, Emery struggled with communication.
Absolutely.
Not all his fault. He struggled with the language barrier and that. So I think Arteta's been 10 out of 10 really with the communication.
Okay. And I think, just very briefly on the press conference as well, it's important to not kind of get gassed over words, because some people can speak really well, say all the right things, but they can't back it up. So I don't think we should get. I wasn't getting too excited just because a man gives a good press conference. I remember Louis van Gaal's first press conference when he got to United. All my friends who support United were like, "Yeah, he gets it. Fourth's not good enough." And how did that work out? So sometimes you can talk the talk, you have to back it up. But I think that he was saying the things that. The 2 or 3 key things which I was like, you know what, that's important. That's what to be addressed. And the conviction, I believe he will see through in the end.
What about the connection with the fans? How do you think he's fared there?
I think he's done fairly well. My worry was when he came in, without sounding disrespectful, I wasn't.
So you're about to do
I wasn't.
disrespectful. That's the prelude to disrespect.
Yeah. Well,
Say no disrespect, but
I wasn't a huge fan of Arteta, the player. At
Agree.
Arsenal,
No,
right?
I hated him.
Because, and as I said to Laura before, right, we replaced him for Fabregas, and Fabregas was one of my favourites. So, bringing Arteta in for Fabregas.
So you're carrying feelings.
Yeah, well, I had to let go of them feelings as a manager.
Same.
But I do think he understands what Arsenal means.
Sure.
I remember his final game for Arsenal. He left the pitch in tears. Arsene Wenger had said for a long time he felt he would become a manager, and he was asking him advice. And so I think he has connected with the fans.
Okay. So to sum it up, then, our first assessment criteria: communication. Jordan.
I would give him a communication. I'm quite harsh with my gradings, and I like him. I'd give him a C+.
C+. That's kind of.
Is that soft?
Lower than that. No, that's harsh, bro.
Is that harsh? Yeah.
Given what you'd said.
No, but
you're like that.
You bigged him up
teacher,
hard,
innit?
didn't it? And then give him a C+.
Overall, in
Okay.
terms of
One
communication,
man's
I
got
think-
high standards.
But
But
I think before you can go to Curtis, I think with the fans, what I like about him is that I don't think he's trying to have a particular rapport with the fan base. He's not really interested at the moment in being liked by the fan base. He's just getting on with the job. Yeah. I don't need a cheerleader to kind of always play to the crowd.
Yeah,
just get on with the job. And I like that he's not really spoken about the fans much.
No,
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I kind of like that.
yeah. Okay.
I'll give him a B.
So that's a C+, a B.
I'll
Okay.
give him a B. I think he's done well.
Yeah, I'd give him a B as well, actually. Yeah, I'd give him a B. But interesting. Okay, so thanks for that. On to our next assessment criteria. Could be closely linked, but man management of the play. When I say man management, I'm talking the players now, actually. So we'll go with Curtis first on this.
Now, I'll be honest, this is where I sort of question him a little bit. I think he's coaching, yeah, but the man management. I mean, I look at the Mesut Ozil situation. He played with him in the Arsenal team, and I was interested to see how he would handle him as a manager. Also, the fact he's still playing Aubameyang on the left.
But that's more. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Go on.
And I mean, man management. I think he's done okay, but I think to become a top manager, you've got to be a strong personality. You've got to be ruthless. You can't. So when he did say, "I'll give everyone a clean slate," I think sometimes you actually don't need to give everyone a clean slate. I think sometimes you can say, you know what,
No?
I've walked in as manager, but I already know that my staff is not good enough. Why do I need to give you a clean slate?
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So from my point of view, this is where I've been slightly concerned with Arteta. It might sound a bit harsh. But
No. That's what you feel, bro. That's what we want people to be honest on the show.
the things, haven't you?
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting point, actually, that Curtis makes about sometimes when you walk in the door, maybe you do already know the 2 or 3 players that don't have a clean slate. So that's an interesting point. For me, this is what I would have done if I was Mikel Arteta, and I was hoping he was going to do it. Before I signed that contract, Arsenal approached me, phoned me, we have a meeting. Before I signed that contract to say I'll become the Arsenal manager, there's certain guarantees that I would need. One of the first 2 or 3 I would have to insist on is, if I'm coming in, you have to guarantee me that in either this window, i.e. January just gone, coming up, or back then coming up, or in summer, I can get rid of Mesut Ozil. And I tell you why, I know this platform gets some
You
lot
might
of
have
heat.
to deactivate.
I'm going to
this
say,
week.
I'll tell you why.
You just uttered that sacred word.
I'll tell you why.
The O word.
And I know that Ozil gets a lot of heat on this platform. But the reason why I would have made that one of my initial must-dos is 2 reasons. First of all, as my first job in management, do I want to die on the Mesut Ozil hill? He's not done it under Arsene Wenger, in my opinion. He's not done it under Unai Emery.
You don't know what you're talking about.
And Lumbo couldn't get a tune out of him either. If I'm Arteta, I'm thinking to myself, this guy has had his best years behind him, in my opinion. Do I want to? He's the biggest earner. He's a star player. Do I really want to have my managerial career from the get-go on the line with a guy that more than likely his best years are behind him?
Yeah.
And the second reason why I would do it is a power play. So one of the first things that Pep Guardiola did when he got to Man City was what? What's the first thing he did? Before that, before he even put it on him, what's the first thing he did?
He put it on Yaya, man.
He put it on Joe Hart. And that was
yeah,
before he even got to Man City. If you remember, before he even arrived at City, he told Joe Hart, "You're done." Now, whether you rate Joe
It's
Hart
funny
or
because
not,
I saw when we was watching at the weekend, man, my man was warming a burnt
on the
Burnley.
there you go. He can't get in their team, and that was before he even got there. And what that said, he made up his mind. Going back to your point, that you're not for me. Before I even get there, you're not for me. What it also does is there's too many players at Arsenal, in my opinion, have been coasting and drifting for too many years. Yeah. What he can do then on day one is go into the trade room and say, listen, they were looking at Mesut Ozil's shirt, he's gone. He's gone. If I can bomb out a 350 grand a week player, a World Cup winner, I can do it to any of Uno. All of you guys have to fix up now. If I can bomb him out, I can bomb any of you out. So you're all now on final chance, and that straight away gets the attention of the playing squad. That okay, this guy's playing games.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I've got a theory about that, because one of the things that I did give Emery credit for, right? Remember him, Unai Emery, is that he tried to address the Ozil situation.
Agreed.
Yeah, we just said that as well.
And he caved. He caved. So many Arsenal fans were like, "Oh, we've got no creativity. We need Ozil." It was, for me, it was nonsense.
So do you think then, by logical extension, that Arteta's looked at that and thought, well, actually, my man tried to do it. It didn't work out for us, so maybe I'll try a different approach.
Maybe he was an attacking player himself. And maybe he thought, I can get into Ozil's head and I know what it's like being a number 10. I can be the guy that turns it around. But if I'm him, I'm thinking, that's not a fight I want to really get involved in. Bored, whether you lose money or not, get him out. I can't go into next season with certain players in my team, and he's one of them. So that would have been my first man management role. Just get him out. Move on from Mesut Ozil. It's not worked out. He's your biggest earner. Just move on from it. Don't let that be the reason why your team struggles. Because if your team struggles, you'll be out in 2 years' time.
But to be fair to Arteta as well, that approach he took, where he's giving everyone a plain slate. Okay, the Ozil thing hasn't quite worked out. Although I thought Ozil was quite clever, because before Arteta rocked up, Ozil was tweeting out what a great thing it was to have
great PR.
Arteta back at the club. And I kind of read into that like, my man's pitching.
Yeah.
And it seems to work for him. But let's talk about a couple other players that were, before Arteta arrived, it was almost like they were persona non grata, but to be fair to Arteta, he seems to have turned their form around. So, Granit Xhaka, I mean, he was in a real bad place before he came in.
Sorry, I want to bring you in.
No, but do you not think that he's done well in staying with him?
I think there's two things here. I'm hearing a lot of Arsenal fans talk about Granit Xhaka's been brilliant, Mustafi's been brilliant, Bellerin's been brilliant. Who else? All these guys that have been maligned by the Arsenal fans, they're brilliant. They have improved, but two things. One, just because you go from a 2 to a 5 out of 10, that doesn't mean you're good enough for Arsenal. It means you've got better, but are you still good enough? And the second thing is, the form for some players like Mustafi has no doubt risen. But for me, again, if I'm Arteta, I'm thinking over the course of 38 games, can I trust you?
No.
5, 6, 7 games, okay. But over the course of a season, am I trusting David Luiz, Mustafi, these guys over a season to deliver 7, 8 out of 10 performances week in, week out? And I'm just not sure these guys can do it. These guys are doing it. They're trying to impress. When we get into next season, I don't want to see Mustafi in our squad. These guys.
No, but do you think he's? I hear what you're saying, but my question is slightly different.
5 games
in terms of how he's handled those players.
Yeah, in the short term, he's done a good job. I have.
I mean, like you said, it's all right getting bad players to play a little bit better, but like you said, long term, that's not going to get us anywhere. The reality is we've won 1 game in the league since it's come in. So, like you said, are they playing that brilliant? You know, they're just better than they was before. I mean,
they've gone from awful to okay.
Yeah, I mean, the table.
I'll tell you what I wanted to do though, right? Without interrupting, I wanted to throw something out there, because in putting together this assessment project, when I looked at the man management, I tended to agree with what you guys have said. I think he has done well, but there's one area of the man management that I'm looking at. I'm thinking, boy, his treatment of Nicolas Pepe is a little baffling to me. What do you guys think?
I mean, he was playing him though, wasn't he, at the start?
Yeah.
And then he sort of went with Nelson for a little bit. And I thought Pepe would be somebody who Arteta would be excited to work with, because they said that him and Sterling, him and Sane, he seemed to work well with wide players. So it makes me think, you know, is there something in Pepe that he's not seeing? You know, Emery stopped playing him at one stage. Lundberg wasn't playing him. So when like multiple managers are doing it, you then start questioning Pepe. Is there something about his attitude or how he trains? And, you know, he hasn't scored that many goals. But I would like to see him in the team on a regular basis.
I was quite baffled that not only did he not start, but to my all intents and purposes, did he even warm up on Sunday?
No,
I just see him at the back in the shed there with his zip right up, looking quite nonplussed.
And it also kind of leans to the idea that maybe the board have said to Arteta, you've got free reign to manage the team as you want, as opposed to that's our record signing. You better play him. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I've not been as impressed. Again, maybe I'm being harsh. The fan base seem to love Nicola Pepe. He's had a few moments here and there, but I watch him and I'm just not impressed. I see a good player that could definitely kick on and be a top player, but I'm again watching the fan cams and everyone's Pepe, and I'm like, I'm just not seeing it. I'm just like, really? He's an inside forward, they called it, as opposed to a winger. So before I was judging him on his deliveries, his assists, his cross, and I was thinking, hang on, he's not a winger. He's an inside forward. He's like a Mane. So you don't judge him on assists, you judge him on goals. But if you do it on that, his stats are even poorer. Is it 4 goals, 5 goals?
Yeah.
Come on.
But the talent is there, so you have to ask yourself.
I think the balance of the front line isn't quite there, and I think someone said it in the fan cam on the weekend after the game at Burnley. I think it was Turkish, said that we might have to accept that the Lacazette Aubameyang up top thing together just doesn't work. No. You might have to pick one, and if you take one of those out, then the balance of the midfield and the front line may allow Pepe to flourish. But we're trying to cram all these players in, and it's just not working.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Good point. Good point. Sure. I do think one area of his man management which has been good is with the young players, though. Coming through, the likes of Sacco, Martinelli, and people like that.
He deserves credit for that. Yeah.
Although on the reverse of that, it seems like what's the guy's name, man? Ceballos. He's not too happy at the moment. He's actually gone public with it.
Bab's got this conspiracy theory, hasn't he, about Ceballos. Apparently
that's a bit political,
he said something about Catalan and
Basques and stuff like that.
A few years ago.
Oh, really?
Quite,
he's holding feelings.
Maybe, that's what he's saying.
But I would doubt very much whether he would.
It's interesting why he's not playing.
It is. Isn't it? Maybe he's just not fit. I'm a big fan of him. I think he's really talented, but Madrid weren't loving him and sent him out on loan to see if there was one more chance that he could grab to prove to them, actually, we should take you back. I just wonder if it's again a little bit like Pepe, if it's the player, if there's something in him, and also he's a lone player. So the reason why Tottenham pulled out of getting him and we ended up getting him was because apparently Pochettino was of the mindset that, well, why would I invest time in a guy that isn't going to be my player long term? I'd rather invest that time, game time, into guys that are going to be here next year. And maybe Arteta's thinking the same thing. You're not going to be here next year, so I'd rather give those minutes.
Having said that, he's made 2 loan signings in January.
That is true, but
we've got option to buy with them, though, haven't we?
Yeah, and they're in areas where we really need, you know what I mean?
You like the layaway thing?
Buy now, pay later, innit?
We like the loan thing.
We like that thing, yeah.
I'm not a fan of loans anyway. I don't think big clubs should be really loaning, but it's a bit embarrassing, I think. If you're a smaller club, I get it, but you're Arsenal.
It's almost like you can't afford to buy them.
Yeah, it's embarrassing, man. I see Chelsea and United doing it. I'm like, really?
What, you mean you weren't impressed with Igalo?
That's a whole
right, so to bring it around, man management, Curtis, A to F, what are you saying, man?
I'm going to give him a D.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. Being honest.
You're not impressed with his man management? Wow.
No, I'm not. Number one, our best player's playing left wing when he's one of the best strikers in Europe, in my opinion. I don't like that. Even bringing Xhaka back into the team, some people like that. I think we could have got rid of him. Apparently begged Xhaka to stay in January. I mean, I'm not a fan of that.
Although some people, to be fair to Arteta, some people would look at that as a bit of a master stroke. You had a man that was disaffected with the fans. He wanted out.
The fans love him now.
Yeah, Arteta's come in. He's definitely playing better. Say what you want about him. He's definitely improved in terms of his performance. Like you said, the fans seem to be on a real love thing with him right now. So you could be arguing that was a bit of a master stroke. But Similar to Mustafi, I think he's done well with that one. The only drawback to me is the treatment of Pepe. But then, like you said, it could be down to the player. So, what about yourself, man?
I'll give him a C.
C.
I think the Mesut Ozil thing is key. I think the Pepe thing, considering the money he spent on him, the club spent on him, I think is interesting to see where it goes with that. And maybe the Xhaka and the Mustafis, he's getting them on side just to try and get through the season because the numbers are low. Do you know what I mean? And they have improved, but I wouldn't like that to translate to
they're good enough.
They're good enough to stay. Do you know what I mean? For next year in his team, because they're just not.
Okay. Well, I'm going to be the soft teacher again. I'm going to give him a B for that.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I've been impressed by the way he's turned the fortunes of certain people around. I mean, even Ozil, right?
He's running more, but he's not playing better.
At least his attitude has improved since Arteta's come. Arteta's obviously sat him down and said, look, I want you to work harder. I want you to try and be more effective. It's not always manifesting itself in terms of goals and assists. Well, it's not. Having said that, you can see a noticeable turnaround in attitude. I mean, even when he's subbed these days, at least he's running off. Before, when my man was subbed, man, the man was taking all 20 minutes to come off the pitch.
This is quite a low bar.
But anyway, we haven't got an agenda, so it won't. Right, so our next assessment criteria, team selection. His teams that he's put out. Have you been impressed, Curtis?
I have. I just think, as you were saying before, he's cramming a lot of attacking players into the team. I think you've got to be brave. You've got to realise what gives us the best balance. You know, squeezing Aubameyang left, Lacazette through the middle. That is not working. You've got a striker in Lacazette who's not scoring goals. He's out of form. He hasn't scored away from home in over a year. So clearly he shouldn't be playing, especially away from home. Aubameyang for me should be through the middle. Martinelli on the left, which is where he's been on form recently. Pepe on the right. He's got Bellerin behind him now, so with a natural fullback that might enable him to play inside forward a little better. And then the Ozil thing, I mean, I give him credit for giving Ozil a chance because, you know, you've got a guy there, he might have thought, as you said, I can be the one to turn him around. But it hasn't worked. Now I want to see bravery now to say, look, you know, I tried Ozil, it hasn't worked, maybe I need the three-man midfield. So the team selection, I think, has been okay, but the front line, I think he needs to tweak it because I don't think we've got the balance up there.
Right.
I agree with most of that, actually. Not much more to add, really. I think that the front line does need simplifying. Do you know what I mean? Not trying to cram everything into... Just simplify.
Yeah, it appears he's trying to shoehorn it. To be honest, you know, I was kind of in favour of that because I was like looking at our assets. We are a top-heavy team. I call us like Dolly Parton.
the Dolly Parton.
That's a bad analogy, but you know what I'm saying? We're like the IG model of football, innit? We got everything's up top.
Yeah.
So...
You wanted to put it all on the pitch.
Yeah. But anyway, listen, I don't want to...
No. But since he's done that, we're scoring less, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
so it's weird that he's done that and we're scoring less.
That's the irony of it, isn't it?
It is, and I don't think it's a bad thing that defensively we've become a bit better. I don't think we've been great, but we've been better. And I don't think we've got a particularly great squad. I know we were talking earlier on. I don't think we've got, in terms of personnel, that many very good players. So... I'm loath to kind of judge him on selections, considering the quality of the players that he's got, in my opinion, aren't brilliant. No. But there are some small wins that he can get, as Curtis says. I'm Team Lacazette. I love Lacazette. And I think that a lot of what he brings to the team, it arguably balances out the lack of goals. I think his work rate, his hold-up play, his tenacity, his threat in behind, I think does offer a lot to the team. But at some point, when you're not scoring, you've got to be taken out.
So would you persist with him for the next game? A lot of people are saying now it's time for him to be dropped.
I would.
You would drop?
I would. No, I would stick with him, but I wouldn't be, upset if the next game he was dropped. Yeah. It's like I can see it, but I would persist with him because I think of what he adds to the team. But then again, going back to my point, maybe Lacazette and Aubameyang just don't work in the front two and simplify it. Take him out. Pepe right, Martinelli left. Aubameyang for the middle.
Lacazette could play in the 10 behind him.
No, I don't think he's got that pass.
No,
I don't think he's got that pass. I'd flood the midfield with three and I'd just go 4-3-3. Yeah. Drop Ozil and Lacazette, and I'd have a midfield three of Guendouzi, Torreira, and Xhaka.
Interesting.
Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I wouldn't drop Lacazette, but if you're going to drop him, it would appease the other problem of it simplifies the front line.
Curtis?
So in terms of rating, I would give him a C. A C's all right.
A C.
I think he's doing all right. It can be tweaked to be improved, but his team, he hasn't got a lot of room to
I don't know, if I came home from school with a report with bare C's in it, I think my mum and dad would be on my case.
It's a pass, isn't it? A C is a pass.
C is like the bottom of the passes.
Yeah. C is kind of mediocre, though, isn't it? In today's parlance.
That'll get you into university.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Some
unis, not the top ones.
Yeah, no,
you ain't going Oxford or Cambridge, but you get a local one.
What we used to call old time poly, innit?
Yeah.
Polytechnic. When you can get into uni, you had to go poly. No disrespect to people like that.
I'd give him a C as well for, again, the same reason. I think that there have been some selections, some choices that I think are questionable, but I think he's working with not much
not
quality,
a lot.
so I think a C is about right, personally.
C, yeah. I would go B again, and I'll tell you why. Because I think that under Arteta, we've got a certain identity now that we're playing with that wasn't there before. And I also think the Chelsea game was a good test case for that. Is that we showed a bit of character
identity?
and heart.
What is that? Because I hear that quite a lot. What's the identity?
A team that is functional, hard-working, resilient, and I think that his team selections have kind of epitomised that.
Okay.
And that's something that I think was very missing before. There's a few games this season, even the Burnley one, I would argue, that under Freddie, certainly under Emery, and maybe even in the latter years of Wenger, we would probably have lost those games. So I think that's where Arteta's come into his fore. So, but moving on, this one should be interesting. Tactical nous. And when I was talking to you guys earlier, and we talked about tactical nous, it's not just tactics, it's the team formation will come under this, game management, substitutions, and how he is, how tactically astute do you think Arteta is when he's coming up against the so-called better managers in the league?
I think that he's shown some tactical nous in definitely the United and Chelsea home games. I think you could see from the get-go he'd done his homework and he had a plan. And the plan in both games worked up until in the Chelsea game. I think he didn't react to when Chelsea subbed on Jorginho. I think it was after half an hour.
Yeah, I remember that game. Yeah,
I was on holiday. We were watching it at the bar, and I said to my friend next to me, "If Arteta doesn't react to Lampard's changing, we're going to lose this game." And we ended up losing it because it was quite obvious to me where Chelsea were going wrong, and the person they needed to bring on was Jorginho.
They took a defender off,
They
didn't
did.
they?
They did.
I remember we watched that. Yeah.
And it was like that for me was a game changer. And I think although the work he did leading up to Chelsea's goal was good, and even prepping for the game itself, he didn't react to that. And I don't know if that was maybe stubbornness, we're the home team, you react to us, or if he just didn't see it, which is more concerning. But
I think things were going well for a minute. I think maybe that's why he decided to stick with it.
Well, remember we were
Chelsea
watching
made
that
the
game.
change.
Chelsea were dominating us in the second
They
half.
were.
It felt
Up
like they
until
were
that
going to
point,
score.
I think it was about the first
the first
35 minutes.
First half
we
an
were
hour.
good.
The first half an hour we were on
The
it.
first half an hour we were on it, and then was it half time or was it after half an
Before
hour?
ha-
It was
yeah,
before
it
half
took
time.
just
wasn't it?
before half
It was
time,
an injury,
Emerson
wasn't it?
changed.
He took Emerson off the left back,
right.
brought Jorginho.
And that for me is always a thing where as the opposing manager you have to react. If a guy comes off the other team because he's injured, then you have to make the change. If the opposing manager makes a change because something tactical's happened, for me you've got to think to yourself, oh okay, well what has he seen? What has he seen that I need to react to? If it's an injury, it's an injury, that you know why he's done the change. But if he's taken off Emerson who's not injured, think to yourself, okay, so what, he's retweaked it and it's not even like for like. He's brought me so what has he seen? And he didn't react to that.
No, he didn't.
And that for me was the most alarming thing that I thought was disappointing tactically tactical wise, should I say. Overall I think his tactics have been a bit difficult to kind of really work out because it's been drowning in hard work. We've got through games on hard work, sticking in games, running more, jumping more, winning more tackles. That's what's got us a lot of draws, I think. We're not drawing games because tactically he set us up to get draws. So I don't actually know exactly what his tactics are yet, but I just know that he's got the team working harder, running faster, jumping higher.
No, I've got a lot of respect for what he's done tactically, to be fair, because I think our team are lacking basic fundamentals. They actually weren't working hard. They actually weren't getting in good shape. So I think he's had to just literally go to basics and say, we're going to work hard, we're going to be tight at the back. And that's probably affected our attack, which is why we're not really scoring goals now.
Yeah, because myself
I don't mind that.
spoke about...
I don't mind.
I'd rather sacrifice goals if it means we're tight at the back.
Because eventually you hope that the goals will start
there you go.
flowing.
And they will. They will.
So he's given...
You spoke about that on previous shows, notably when Aubameyang got sent off. Like, you got your main striker running back 30 yards to make tackles, and the crowd... But we're saying, hang on a minute, we want you further up the pitch scoring goals, not tracking back, making last-ditch challenges.
But that speaks to, I think, a bigger impact he's had on the team, that even though maybe positionally he shouldn't have been that far back, the fact that every single player wants to win the ball back, wants to help out, wants to double up, I think that I would take that for now over Aubameyang maybe being in the right position. It says to me that every player, including the captain, is saying we need to all work harder. Liverpool, Man City are the best two teams, not because they have the best players, fundamentally because they just work harder than everybody else. They run harder than everybody. They jump higher. They win second balls. That's the basis, and then on top of that, you can play.
Then,
So how do you think his game management has been? How he's seen out games?
One thing, like you say, sometimes I think his substitutions, he's waited a little bit too long in certain games.
And there was a couple of weird ones in there, most notably the Leeds game where, and he's done this a few times actually, where he'll get a player ready, you think he's coming on. And then he's been told to sit down, but don't come on, somebody else comes on. Again, there was a Chelsea game, innit, that we actually won that game.
True.
Sorry, we drew that game, Martinelli's goal. If the rumours are to be believed, Martinelli was due to be subbed before, just before that. Which we was all thinking, what? If you're down to 10 men and you need guys to be running around, surely you want to keep Martinelli, who's a known hard worker on the pitch. But anyway, I don't want to...
Yeah, I think sometimes it was like, it's the easy option, take the young player off. Because I was initially thinking Ozil will come off. Because when there's 10 players, you need 10 players working. Ozil's not...
You're not suggesting for 1 minute that he doesn't work.
I don't want to go down that road again, but...
hashtag comments.
We might have to take the comments off this week. But
go on.
So his substitutions at times have been a little bit, reactive rather than proactive. I think sometimes you've got to make a decision earlier. Even in the Burnley game, as you said, we need a goal, Pepe sitting there, and then he brought Eddie on for like 5 minutes or something. I would have liked to have seen that 20 minutes earlier.
I would agree with that.
So substitutions have been a little bit Wenger-like, he always used to wait a little bit too long.
Right, that's interesting. So in terms of a grade then for tactical nous,
I'm going to give him a B because I think, as you said, it's hard because we're not great at the moment. When the football's flowing, you can sort of see the tactics a little bit more. But I'm going to give him a B because I think he's got the basics working. And then we need to build on top of that to become a quality team. So I think I still want to see more from him, and the substitutions I think he can improve, but he's got us back to basics at least. So I'll give him a B.
That's fair.
I'll give him a C plus. I'll give him a C plus.
You're harsh.
I'll give him a C
plus. You got one of these men that when you're at school you just can't please him.
Because for me, if you're talking B's and A's, you're kind of going into the realms of
this is a man
excellence.
that you
wanted. I'm balanced.
Imagine if you didn't want him.
I'm balanced. Even though I wanted him and I rate him, I can still look at him objectively. B's and A's for me are kind of going into the whole excellence kind of area, and I don't think he's been excellent. I think he's been good to very good.
Well, the results bear that out. He hasn't been excellent, but
C plus.
C plus. That's interesting. I'm going to go in a B, man. I think
you like that there, don't you?
I do. Because I tend to look at C's and C pluses as kind of mediocre. And I think tactically, he has shown that he's tactically astute. He's not up there yet with some of the other heavy hitters, but he's getting there. He seems to know what he's doing, put it up. So I'm happy to give him a B for that. Right, in terms of his overall assessment, when you get your report, you get all the grades for the different subjects, but you always get a little bit at the end about an overall. So what's your overall assessment?
I'll tell you what it is and I'll give you a grade at the end. So I'm liking more of what I'm seeing than what I'm not. So there's more positives and negatives for me. I did want him. I'm glad we've got him.
Are you happy with him?
I am happy with him. I am. But I think the board have got to do their bit now. The board have got to do. You can argue then he got him in because he was a cheap option. That's possible. But now we've got him. The board have to do their job. And for me, that isn't just about players who they bring in. As I said at the start, it's also about players they've got to get rid of. The first thing I would have done this summer, Emery, if I was Emery, was cleanse the team. Sometimes it's about getting rid of players and getting the ones you don't want who are just rubbish, get them out, and then you can build. We've signed players in the last 10 years who have been good players. They turn up at the Emirates 2 minutes later, they're rubbish. They've been infected. So there's no point bringing in good.
It's Mkhitaryan.
Exactly.
I want to see that guy's passport because I'm convinced that's not the same guy that used to play for Dortmund.
And there's so many players who've
That's not the same guy.
I love Mkhitaryan. I think he was awful at Arsenal.
Because I liked him as a player, man.
He was brilliant. So I think it's about the board now allowing him to cut certain contracts, take a hit, take the loss, and get rid of certain players in the summer. I think then he can work. I think what's also interesting for me, and this is why the results for me at the moment aren't the focus. The Chelsea 2-2. It feels like a win, bro. It's great. Whether we won or lost that game for me wasn't really important. What was more important is that he's getting a reaction from the team. He's getting a reaction. That's what I'm looking at more. And what I'm hoping he's doing is using this next 4 months, almost write the season off, and using this 4 months as almost a pre-season before the pre-season. Like when Rodgers got to Leicester, he had the whole second half of the season to kind of get his way in, and look what we're seeing now. So he's almost got a run-up before the pre-season to really work out, okay, I want you, you're not cutting it, you're not getting it, you're staying, and then by the time season comes, cut, keep, let's go. So I'm really hoping that he's using this time now to focus less on wins and losses. Obviously, we've got to win games. We can't finish 15th. But what's equally as important to me is he drilling the players that he wants now for next season?
So you are seeing what we call green shoots.
I am.
What would you give him then?
I would give him overall, give him a C. I'll give him a C.
It's a pass, isn't it?
It's pass. There's more good than bad. He's not been brilliant. The results, it's not been brilliant, but I think it's been good enough to make me very content and have hope.
Okay. Curtis?
As I said before, it wasn't the manager that I would have picked. But having picked him, I have been impressed with him. I've got no doubt about his coaching ability. I think.
To be fair to you, you said that from the outset.
As a coach, you can see. I mean, even look at Saka and players like that. I mean, they look much better players under him. They look like they understand how they're playing. What I did question about him was the man management. Can he convince Aubameyang to sign his last major contract of his career? You know, will Aubameyang trust him as a manager to say, I'm going to commit to you? Can he convince top players to come to Arsenal? Because managers do have an effect on transfers. They're going to think, you haven't really managed. And as you said, you make a good point. The board need to back him, because if they don't back him and, as you said, get rid of some of the rubbish and bring quality in, then his hands are tied. You know, the January window didn't excite us. 2 loans, one's not fit and one's injured. You know, you look at the Tottenham guy, he comes in, scores the winner, £30 million. Our guy's in the treatment room, just in a different
game.
Kit. Just change kits. You know what I mean? So, the Kroenke.
I must admit, we were saying the other day, we doubt whether the Arsenal shop sold many Suarez t-shirts.
Oh yeah, I forgot about it.
Cedric Suarez.
That's why. So sorry.
They won't be
In terms
selling
of getting
out
the fans
quickly.
off the seats, I don't think it was.
But on that,
we weren't queuing up for that.
But on that, this is a really interesting point. As Arsenal fans, and we do it every transfer window, we've got to get off this whole hype of wanting the exciting big name. For me, it's about getting the right players in. We need to stop this transfer window. I watch Robbie's daily update every single day when he was doing it, and the fan base are like, who's this guy? We need to stop worrying about getting the big sexy name. We did that with Pepe, and how's that worked out so far? Suarez, how he works out, we don't know. But if he's the right back for us,
the next Lickstone.
I think it would be better.
If he's the right back for us, I don't care if it didn't cost £45 million. I don't care if he's not got a sexy name.
Nor do the board.
It'd be nice if he was available for selection.
This is true. That's a good start.
That's a good start.
But I just think it's about identifying in the next window the right players. I'm not interested in if they cost 100 million or that we buy someone from Just get the right players in. I don't care if they cost 4 million or 400 million. Just get the right players in. As Arsenal fans, we buy into this whole, we need the sexy names, and we only got him, and forget that. When Liverpool signed Andy Robertson from Hull, were they complaining, the fan base? Because they recognised what the manager was trying to do and a plan for him, and now look at him.
I would almost forgotten about Tierney, man. What's happening with him?
No, man, injury prone.
I'm worried about that one.
Yeah, I mean,
It seems like he's
because he was
even
injured before he
Celtic.
come, innit?
Yeah, hernia operation.
And then he's come to us and he's hardly figured.
That one's concerning me a little bit.
Yeah, it is, man. But without digressing too much,
Sorry,
so
so
to
I
bring
just
it
wanted-
back round then.
sorry.
So I take it you're both happy overall with him?
Yeah, I'd give him a C
Curtis
as well.
maybe less than Jordan?
I would give him a C as well.
C as well.
C as well. I think middle of the road. I think I've seen enough to think that he can build on it, but there's still questions to be answered. And as you say, I think the board need to help him.
Well, I'm going to keep it entirely consistent.
Just
I've
say,
been giving B's.
just say B. we already know.
I'm the teacher that, you know what I mean, I'm the soft man teacher, you know what I mean?
Maybe the grades changed from like O levels to GCSEs. Maybe a C was a fail back in the day. But you don't like C's, do you?
No, but I've always looked at C's as like, you know what, if my kids come home and they got a C, I'll be like,
You're not happy,
man,
huh?
what? You're not really putting it in.
Oh.
But if they get a B, I'll be like, yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Wow, you're tough. Tough.
No, you're tough.
Well, I've been giving.
I'm soft.
I've been giving pure C's. C's for me is a.
It's more realistic.
It's a decent to very. It's very good to going towards excellent. B's like excellent. A's.
But one thing I do like about it, you're not getting gassed, because I do get the impression that some of the fan base, we spoke about it in one of our previous shows, didn't we, Curtis, about fans just...
Fans have gone from, no, we can't have him, he's not manager, to now they're like,
he's no balance.
I
Just
was
need
pro
balance.
Arteta, but even I'm not. Just calm down.
Yeah.
He may not be the guy.
Fans are very reactionary by nature.
Man, just relax.
By
man.
definition, they're very reactionary. If we win, it's a great all time. If we lose, we're the
get
worst
him
of
out.
all
Yeah,
time. You know what I mean?
We've got to be patient with him. He
do.
needs time.
So to round it up then, people, you've heard from our two esteemed panellists, very knowledgeable guests, and...
I've got 2 esteemed now. I've just 1 esteemed.
No, but he was
He's just
esteemed
trying to
from
make
the start.
you feel good, isn't it? You know what I mean?
No, not at all, man. He was the earliest esteemed, you're the latest esteemed.
okay,
Both esteemed.
Okay.
As the public out there will no doubt work out for themselves, man. Yeah, I've enjoyed that, man. That was good.
No, me too.
And, listen, you guys out there, let us know what you think, man. You've heard the categories, you've heard what these guys have had to say. Let us know what you think. Do you think his half-term report card is good? Would you give him A, B, C, D, E, or even F? Let us know. Thank you very much. Well, folks, that's it for the show this week. Thanks very much to my guests for coming in. Curtis, tell the people where they can find you, man.
Yeah, check out the channel, Curtis Shaw TV, approaching 10k. Keep supporting, man. I appreciate it.
And Jordan, tell the people where they can find you.
I'm on Twitter _Jordan Jarrett Bryan. Sorry, Jordan J Bryan _Jordan J Bryan. Instagram's my full name, Jordan Jarrett Bryan, 2 R's and 2 T's.
Okay, and you've also got your show.
Yes, all Blackademic, my YouTube show. Check it out, Blackademic TV. That's Blackademic with no C's, BLAKADEMIK. We're on Instagram as well. It's all .Blackademic.
Special thanks for coming in today.
Cheers
Really
for having me,
appreciate that. We're definitely going to have you back again.
Anytime.
Should be great. And also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and keep following us as usual. Send in your comments, your messages. As you know, we try to keep the show as interactive as we can, and we look forward to hearing you. And you'll be seeing us next week. Thank you very much.